Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedbuilding video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video, I'm going to be building in the world of Sequoia, which is the world that we got from the latest expansion pack, The Sims 4 Growing Together, and I'm going to be building a realistic family home. So this house ends up having 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, which honestly surprised me because I feel like if you were to look at it from the outside, it probably doesn't look that big, but I feel like this house is quite deceivingly big. But it's built on a 30 by 20 lot, but it's one of them 30 by 20s that are bigger left to right than front to back, you know, one of them awkward ones. It's built on one of them. But this week, I basically just wanted to sit down and build something that had a screened porch, which, hear me out. You know, recently we got the Greenhouse Haven kit, which is basically a kit that focuses on greenhouse clutter, like gardening clutter, like plant pots and just random bits and bobs. Well, in the kit, we got these really nice windows and there's like a screened porch version of them. I really hope you know the ones that I'm talking about, but basically within the kit, we got a few different like window options, we've got a few different door options, and there is different swatches in the windows. So if you wanted to, you could have like floor to ceiling. Oh, you know them windows that have like the squares in them, they're quite industrial looking. You could have them. There is also plain windows, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, there is a version of it that has a screen porch. And pretty much, ever since we got the Greenhouse Haven kit, it's been on my to-do list to build a house that has a screened-in porch like at the front of it. And so, yeah, that is basically what I did. And so, I hope you guys like it. But getting on and talking a little bit more about the build. So you can see that I've pretty much already built the main structure of the build, already done the roofing, already done the wallpapering as well. I used the new, I say new, it's not really that new, but it's a new to me, like Suburban wallpaper. It's one that we got from the Growing Together expansion pack, and I'm so grateful that we've got like a new sliding in the game, because for so many years we only had one version of like plain basic, you know, like standard nice kind of sliding. So the blue sliding that I've used, it's from the Growing Together expansion pack, but you hopefully you can see the windows that are placed just kind of like by the front door area. They're the ones that I was talking about, which pretty much inspired this whole entire build, because I just really wanted to have kind of like a nice little screened in porch area. Also ends up having a screened in porch around the back of the house. You'll see in a second I'm going to start incorporating the windows at the back. This house, as well as the 4 bedrooms and the 2 bathrooms, also ends up having a little like inside porch bit at the back. It's kind of like a greenhouse, but it's not, because I didn't place down a glass roof. But if you wanted to, you can make it into a greenhouse. You get my gist. But there ends up being like a little greenhouse area at the back of the house, and yeah, I decided to use them windows there as well. But you can see that I am currently going around and just placing down some more windows. I end up using a combination of both base game windows, them really like standard basic looking windows. They are from high school years. They're the ones that Sims can climb out of, and then also a few windows from the Snowy Escape expansion pack. But in terms of like the actual building process for this house, honestly, I wasn't looking at anything. The one thing that I did look at was a picture on Pinterest that kind of inspired kind of like the street view and kind of like the walkway up to the house. I'll find the picture, I'll pop it up on the screen now so you can see what I mean. If you were to look at the picture, I'm very much aware that the house that is on the screen that I've built looks absolutely nothing like the little suburban greenhouse that is in this picture that I found on Pinterest. Basically, what I was doing is I was trying to find pictures that had like a screened in porch to give us some inspiration from, and I couldn't really find any on Pinterest anyway, but I did come across this picture, and I really liked the fact that at the bottom there's kind of like some pavement, and then it goes up some stairs, kind of like a little bit of a hill, and then you've got some more stairs to actually get up into the house. I really liked that, and so I kind of inspired the front portion of the build, more so like the street pavement bit, by this picture on Pinterest. But yeah, like I said, the main structure of the house and all the different bump outs and stuff, it was pretty much just what I thought looked good and how I could incorporate a porch somehow into this build. But you can see that currently I'm just working on kind of like a little bit of a level terrain. So going back to that picture that I found on Pinterest, I really liked the fact that there was kind of like raised grass behind this little wall. The wall that I'm using, by the way, it's from base game, it's in the live edit menu, and I purposely picked out this one because in the area of Sequoia that I'm building in, this wall is literally next door to the lot. You might be able to see a few times when I'm like doing the landscaping, rotating the camera around and stuff, but this wall is already in the environment, so it looks like it blends in naturally. But basically what I did is I built the house originally. I then raised it up to a good level that I wanted the terrain to then be like level to. I then did the terrain manipulation to get it all to be one like level. I didn't want to say level again, but I tried to get it all to the same like height, if you want to put it that way. Then once I got the terrain to this certain height, I then leveled the house up even more, so then that way there was still a little bit of a foundation. There was still going to be some steps that your Sims have to walk upon, but then I basically had this like bit of a hill, and the way that I kind of decorated it and the way that I got around it is basically I used some tiles on the floor as kind of like pavement, because it's good in some cases and it's also not good in other cases, but in this case it's really good because if you want to do terrain manipulation but you want to have some certain areas that are going to be completely flat like to the floor, if you place down any kind of floor tile or like wooden floor, whatever you fancy, the terrain will then automatically drop down to the floor and be at that level. So that's why I placed down kind of like a little bit of pavement outside, kind of like on the edge of where the terrain manipulation is. I then found these walls. I then used a tool mod and basically merged them and pulled them out a little bit, so it's kind of like covering the hill, and then went around with some bushes and then basically just filled out the empty gap in between it. I really hope that was easy enough to follow along with. I tried to explain it as it was on the screen, but once my footage is sped up, it just goes so quickly. So if I explain that really badly or you've got some questions, just please feel free to ask me and I'll hopefully explain it better in the comments if I didn't already explain it well enough. But yeah, I really like this little kind of like terrain walled area. It just really makes the build and it really sets it off. And I thought it was really funny how I was on Pinterest, I was looking for a picture that was completely different to this one, stumbled across this picture of this green suburban house on my homepage, really liked the front porch area, and then I say front porch, like front entrance area, and then it ended up like being a main like key feature of the build. But yeah, I just thought it was a bit funny. I don't know if you know, I was about to say, I don't know if you know who Bob Ross is. I feel like everyone knows who Bob Ross is. Literally everyone, their nan knows who Bob Ross is. But you know Bob Ross, when he does some paintings and sometimes it's like, oh, it's just like a little happy mistake. It was a bit of a mistake, this one, because I didn't actually initially set out to build something with this kind of terrain front portion bit, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. You can probably tell because I've been going on about it for the past few minutes. But anyway, getting on and actually getting back and talking about what I'm doing right now. So you can see that I like filled in the empty like gap in between where the wall and the terrain was with some base game bushes. I've then gone around and started doing a little bit more just like landscape and just general like grass clumps, add a few different like trees here and there. Also end up placing down another staircase more towards like the left hand side of the build, and that staircase kind of goes up and into the back garden. Now like I said, I'm building on one of them really awkward 30 by 20 lots where it's bigger left to right than what it is front to back. And something that I want to know about this lot, which I think is called Sequoia Cottage, I think that's what it says anyway in the top left hand side of the screen. I think when you go into a brand new save file, this lot by default has a starter house on it, off memory anyway, off subject, but I actually discovered this in my own personal gameplay because one of the households that I'm currently playing with in rotation, they're living on this lot, and I discovered something that basically this lot in particular, there is a tree at the back of the lot, and I can't believe that this wasn't checked. But basically there is a tree that is outside the lot guidelines, so you can't edit it, like we can't change it, where basically the leaves on this willow tree will come over into the lot. So if you was to build something, you can't have it going too far back onto the lot, because then when you're building and then also in gameplay, there's going to be a tree coming through, which I am so surprised that this made it into the final, like, I don't know why that wasn't checked, do you know what I mean? Like, that really should have been checked. But yeah, you might see it when I like rotate the camera around and I start doing kind of like a little basketball court area and stuff. There is a tree, and basically that tree is outside the lot guidelines, but it comes over into the lot. So if you ever want to build on this lot in particular, you've got to be mindful of this really annoying tree that is just coming in, and just you can't do anything about it. You can't even delete it with the tool mod. It's a massive pain. Things like this really do surprise me, because I would have thought that when you're, I mean, I ain't got a clue about game development, but I feel like when you're developing a game like this, maybe you should just check. I don't know, it was just one of them things that I really could not believe that is like an issue with this lot. But yeah, you can't have too much of a building too far toward the back of the lot, because then this tree comes in. And like I said, I discovered this in my own gameplay because one of my Sims families is living on this lot in particular. It's a really good lot, by the way, because kind of like at the back on the left hand side there's like a little park area, and then there's also a really big like pond lake kind of situation. Your Sims can go fishing over there. So like for general gameplay, the lot is in a really good space, but it's just the fact that there is literally a tree coming onto the lot which kind of restricts what you can build here. It's just really annoying, but I thought I would mention that. But currently you can see that I'm just going around and just doing the garden. It's more like a side garden on this lot where it is such an awkward space, but in the garden there ends up being like a little basketball hoop area, also placed down a little football. There is also a little outdoor seating area as if it was to be like a barbecue area, but I just couldn't make a barbecue grill fit, and so there isn't a barbecue grill. There probably is space for one if you wanted to add it, but I just couldn't seem to place it down in a space that felt like it was right. I mean, you can see I tried to attempt it over here by the back porch. I thought I'll place it down there, and then it wasn't working, so I didn't end up adding a barbecue grill. But there is a little seating area, there's a few different planters, there is also a little washing line. In a minute I'm going to place down a base game like washing basket, if that's what you refer to it as, because I'm questioning what people refer to it as, because in my house the little thing that I'm about to pull out, I think a lot of people will refer to it as a washing basket, but we use it as the ironing basket. This one that I've just pulled out is from base game, but I placed it down next to the little hanging washing line because I was thinking maybe that's the washing that is due to be hung on the little line. But yeah, in my house that is called an ironing basket, washing basket, whatever you fancy. I was basically just trying to make this house on both the inside and the outside feel as realistic as possible. That's why I'm calling this house a realistic family home, because I just try to do little details like here and there all throughout the build. But you can see that I'm just going around finishing off the exterior. I just placed down a little art easel onto kind of like the back garden porch. Also end up placing down a few different like smaller plant pots that maybe looks like the Sims that live here, maybe they're trying to grow something, maybe they're attempting to grow, I don't know, cress or whatever you can grow in them small little plant pots. And I plopped them onto kind of like the fence side, and then I also placed down a little mug as well by the art easel, so it looks like maybe a Sim has been out there, they've been doing some painting and they've had like a cup of tea or something. But now you can see that I've moved over back to like the front of the lot, but now this is where I start coming in and start furnishing the interior porch area. So this, like, your Sims will basically walk through a door and then they have to walk through another door, which will be the front door. There's kind of like two front doors, if you want to put it that way. But like I said, I just really wanted to build a house with a porch. Ever since we got the greenhouse haven kit, it's just been something to do, like, on my to-do list, and I can't believe it's taken me so long to actually do it. I feel like having a porch in houses in England isn't so common nowadays, but I think it's something that you find quite commonly in the US. I mean, I might be wrong by that, but I feel like in the UK, a lot of bungalows, a lot of smaller, older kind of houses have this kind of thing, but more like modern houses don't really seem to have it. Either way though, you can see that I've now moved on into the inside of the house, and I'm just furnishing this kind of like little front entrance porch area. So over here I placed down a little side table, also placed down some like letters onto the side table, some clutter that looks like it's a phone and maybe like some house keys or something. Also placed down this fossil on this side table, which is not a random fossil, there was kind of like a little bit of an idea behind it. I often place this down into my Sims houses in like lounge spaces or on like a mantelpiece or something, and I feel like I never explain why I do it. Basically, that little fossil that I've placed down, it's from base game. Your Sims can just like go out into the world and they can find it, but I like the look of it because to me, you know, when you're a kid, or say if you've got kids, you can get things where you basically get like baby feet or hands imprinted into things to kind of remember how big your hand was. It looks like one of them to me, and I feel like I always place that down into my builds, and I just never ever mention why I'm placing it down. But it's not just a random fossil I imagine that the Sims have found like in and around the world. I imagine that maybe growing up, that was one of the kids that lived in this house, that was like their handprint, and it's been put into a bit of stone and it's now just displayed by the front entrance hallway. I will talk about the Sims that I pictured to live in this house, by the way, because I did build this for my save file, but I have got a little bit of a storyline that I was working towards when I was building this, but I think I'm going to more so focus on the individual storyline when I move over and I start furnishing the individual bedrooms, just because I do want to speak about what's on the screen as I'm doing it, but kind of like a little bit of an overview. Basically, when I was building this house, I was decorating it to be more so like a grandmother that lived here, and she lived here for maybe like a whole entire life, and a few years back, maybe like 5-6 years back or something, her grandchildren had to come in and move with her because I imagine that the children's parents unfortunately passed away. I was personally thinking in a fire. I'll get onto that when I actually move on and decorate the bedrooms, but I was thinking that the kids' parents, they passed away, and so they had to go and move in with grandma, and so I decorated this house to be a little bit more like an older sweet lady's little house, but there is a few still like modern additions here and there, but that is just kind of like the overall vibe that I was going for. But you can see that I've now moved over and I've started furnishing the kitchen. The kitchen, I'm a really big fan of like the placement of the kitchen, because I don't know if you would have remembered, but when I was doing the floor plan, you kind of like walk in through the front door, or like the second front door if you want to put it that way, but if you go to the left, you then walk into this kitchen area, and then there is kind of like a little hallway which then kind of links round to the dining room. But in that hallway as well, there's like a little utility room where your Sims can do their washing, you know, the washing machine, tumble drying in there. There's also like a hoover and like a broom and just like general bits and bobs basically that you would find in like a normal utility room space. But then if you go back out into the hallway, you can kind of walk through into the dining room, but then from the dining room you can then walk through into the lounge space, and then from the lounge space then you can walk, basically your Sims can walk around in a circle. The overall floor plan for this house, I'm a really big fan of. But yeah, I really liked the way that I put the kitchen kind of like at the front of the build. I never normally build kitchens at the front of the build. I don't know what it is, but I normally like to have kitchens so they have some windows looking out into the back garden space. But I had these windows at the front of the build, the ones from Snowy Escape, and I just thought it was the perfect placement for the kitchen. But for the actual kitchen itself, I ended up using some base game counters, my absolute favourite ones. They're kind of a little bit more traditional looking, and then I ended up placing down the Parenthood oven, which I've noticed, I don't ever seem to use the Parenthood oven anymore. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with it. I have other ovens that I'd rather use rather than that one. But where I was trying to decorate this house to be a little bit more traditional, kind of retro-y in some like aspects here and there, I thought the Parenthood oven looked like it could have been purchased in like the 80s or something. And then I also ended up placing down the Smeg fridge from the Cottage Living expansion pack. I then also merged in some like post-it notes onto the fridge. I then also popped some like used looking mugs into the sink. If you're wondering, 100% usable, your Sims don't even realise it's there. But yeah, I moved objects, some used looking mugs, or like mugs that have got like drips down the side of them, like a little bit stained, into the actual sink itself to make it look like people have been having cup of teas and cups of coffees and they just haven't bothered to do the washing up yet. I then also placed down a light switch, but behind the sink as well. I don't know if you would have noticed it. It was very quick when I did it. But I did this in my last build. Last week I built an apartment using, you know, the new Nook Kit that came out last week. I basically built an apartment using all the new stuff that came within that kit. I did it in the kitchen in that build, and I don't think I mentioned it, but basically I used this light switch, the one that is from the bathroom clutter kit, because it's a little bit more modern than the base game light switch. But basically I popped it behind the sink. It looks like one of them things. Now you're gonna have to correct me because I ain't got a clue what it's called. You know, in the US it's very common to have like a bin in your sink, if that makes any sense. You know you can put like food in your sink and then you can press a button and it kind of like mashes all the food up. I think that's what it does anyway, from my understanding. In the UK, we don't have them. It's actually really funny because when I was in uni, I did actually have one in my kitchen, in my sink, but my uni flat, it wasn't very good and it didn't work, so I never actually got to use it. But yeah, it's like a food, not dispenser, like a food bin in your sink. I tried to basically make it look like there was one of them in the kitchen as well. And then I also ended up placing down like a microwave in there and just random little bits and bobs. Quickly though, you would just see me do the utility room space. In there, it was pretty bog standard, I feel like, for a laundry room. A washing machine, a tumble dryer. I moved objects, some kids' drawings onto kind of like the back wall to make it look like previously the kids have been drawing some stuff, and you know, grandma is very proud of them, and grandma is displaying it in the utility room, which actually is kind of bad because it's kind of hidden, but maybe they used to be on the fridge and they fell off or something. And then also ended up placing down a little basket which is from the Jungle Adventure debug menu, and then I went through the base game debug menu and found loads of different like spray bottles and just cleaning looking like products, or products that look like they're meant to be for cleaning stuff, and I merged it into the basket. There is also a little sink in the utility room, and then also a retro looking hoover or vacuum, whatever you want to call it, and then also a second washing basket that kind of looks like it's used, and then I moved objects, some more like dirty clothes on top of it. Then quickly, you would have just seen me do the really small, like short and sweet little dining room. The dining room honestly doesn't really have that much in it because it was such a small little, almost like a cube of a room. I ended up placing down one of them circular tables. The ones that I've used are from the Laundry Day stuff pack, and then I placed down some matching chairs kind of that are from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack, and then there ends up being like a painting on the wall, a few different things onto the table, like a little book, and then some glasses, a fruit bowl, just random bits and bobs. But now you can see that I've moved over and I've started furnishing the lounge living room. I think out of all of the different rooms in this house, like the generic rooms that you normally would have, you know, like kitchen, dining room, lounge space, study, all of like the generic housey rooms, I think this is my favourite one. I'm not going to say it's my favourite room in the house because I am such a massive fan of the way that I decorated some of the bedrooms on the upstairs. They're all so completely different from one another, and they were so much fun. I will move on to it and you will see it, but I decorated one teenager bedroom to be like very grungy, kind of like gothic. Then there is a kid's room which I decorated to be kind of like K-pop themed. Never done that theme before. We actually have a lot of stuff in the game that works really well for that theme. And then there's another bedroom upstairs which I decorated for a kid that just loves animals and loves stuffed animals. But I'm a massive fan of like the bedroom situation in this house. But in terms of like the generic kind of everyday kind of rooms that your Sims would interact with, this is by far my favourite one. I'm just a massive fan of it. In here I decided to use the fireplace, which is from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. I then decided to use a different combination of like armchairs and then sofas. So the big 3-seater sofa, that is from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack, and then the armchair on the right hand side, that is also from that expansion pack. But then the armchair to the left, we got that from the Basement Treasures kit, and it's meant to look like a little bit more of like an older, worn down kind of leather seat. I was just picturing the grandma in the house, that's her seat, like that is where she sits in the lounge room, and if she goes into the lounge room and someone is sitting in that seat, they instantly have to get up because everyone knows that is grandma's seat. I'm just a massive fan of this room. Also end up using the Growing Together rug on the floor. It's the one that's got the little tassels in it, but then I also decided to use one of my new favourite rugs, which is from the Nook Kit, and it's the one that's kind of like a little bit more like plush and just comfy looking. I am a really big fan of this new rug that we've just got. I said this last week when I was doing that apartment, but I'm a massive neutral rug kind of person. Like I just love a neutral rug. Even though we've got so many beautiful rugs in the game, 9 times out of 10 when it comes around to me furnishing a room, I'll just place down like a blank cream or beige or brown rug because I feel like they work well for every single space. I'm so happy we've now got another variant of like a basic cream, just kind of like essential rug. But yeah, I placed that down onto the floor. Ended up also placing down the Basement Treasures kit, kind of like, it's meant to be a side table, but it looks like it used to have like an older TV in it. Now, I am a massive fan of the Basement Treasures kit and the Greenhouse Haven kit, but then also the Nook kit. I just feel like for build and buy, the build and buy kits, they're actually really good. There isn't a single build and buy kit that I do not like. Like all of them are just my type of style. The one that I probably use the least would be the Courtyard Oasis kit, but then even then, I still find things that I want to go for in the catalogue that is from that kit. But the Basement Treasures kit has some really like older, more retro looking furniture, and it's got this little TV stand. It's meant to be a side table, and it looks like it's got an old TV in it. Don't get me wrong, I love it to pieces, but I really do wish they gave us a version of it that maybe didn't have an older TV in it, because I find when it comes around to decorating, it looks a bit funny sometimes when you have this side table with an old TV in it, but then you place down another old TV on top of it, if you get what I mean. Like sometimes it just doesn't look that great, but I mean, I end up using it in that space as well. Also end up placing down some like puzzles behind the TV. Also end up placing down some new bookcases that we got from the Nook Kit. You would have seen in certain areas in both that room and then also some of the other rooms in the house, I basically did my favourite trick of making it look like there is plug sockets coming out the wall. Like I said, I was trying to make this house as realistic as possible, and plug sockets are realistic. We've all got them in wherever we live, whether it be a house, a flat, I don't know where you live, but we've all got plug sockets, we've all got light switches, and so in every single room in this house it ends up being little tiny plug sockets coming out the wall. I have been doing this a lot recently, but I feel like I haven't spoken about it in a while. Basically, you know the Parenthood game pack? Well, basically there's a light that is in this game pack which, if you flip the light around 180 degrees, weirdly, there's a plug socket on the back of it. Don't know why it's there, but it's there. Someone must have had a little bit of extra time when they were designing that light, when they was working at the studios. But yeah, if you rotate this light, there's a little tiny plug socket coming out of it. And so throughout all the different rooms in this house, I go in and I place down this plug socket to make it look like it's a part of the house, and you know, it's a little bit more of a realistic touch. Where I haven't explained this in a while, I'm going to quickly explain how you do it, but it is honestly so straightforward. I have explained this in previous videos, but yeah, I just haven't spoken about me doing it recently because when I started doing it, I felt like I was mentioning it in pretty much every single video that I was doing, and then I felt like I was getting a little bit too repetitive, and so then I stopped mentioning it. But I feel like it's been a good amount of time since I last did it. But basically what you do is you find this light from Parenthood. It's one that, you know, when monsters appear underneath the bed for kids in game, it's one of them that you meant to put onto the wall to kind of like prevent that. Basically you place it onto the wall, and if you got the tool mod, you rotate it so it's 180 degrees, so you basically flip it backwards, and then using the gravity pull feature, you then just pull it out of the wall, and then yeah, the little tiny plug socket then comes out of it. I often get questions as well when I do this if the light like affects the wall, because the plug socket is effectively on the back of a light. When you merge in the wall light into the wall, there is no glow. It doesn't look like there's a light there. Honestly, you wouldn't even know that behind the plug socket there is meant to be like a bedtime light. It looks so cool, and yeah, that is how you do it if you are curious. But yeah, I finished off the lounge room. I then quickly just did the little like home office kind of like study nook space. Honestly, there's really not too much to that space. It was effectively a hallway going into the little greenhouse, but in that I placed down one of the base game desks that looks like it's got loads of different like books and boxes onto it. I then placed down a really old kind of like I say retro looking, I had one of them when I was growing up, but you know, like the older kind of like fat computers with like a really big monitor. I placed down one of them in there, and then I cluttered up both the desk and then also the computer itself, because I don't know if you would have noticed, but on the actual, I don't want to call it a fat computer, but on the thick computer, there is quite a bit of a ledge on the top of it. I basically went into debug and I found like a little note scribbled, and then also a little pencil. I was personally picturing maybe grandma was sitting there, maybe she was Googling a few different recipes, or maybe she was Googling a few different like gardening tips or something, because the grandma in this house I imagine to be really into both cooking but then also gardening as well. And so yeah, I merged in kind of like a notepad and pencil on top of the PC itself, and then also in the little like study nook area there ends up being some bookcases that we got from the Nook Kit. I then quickly did the little, I don't want to call it a greenhouse because it's not a greenhouse, it hasn't got a glass roof, but if you want it to have a glass roof, I feel like it would probably be quite easy to do so. I just decided that I wanted it to be pretty much like a screened in porch area. Ends up having a few different plants in there. There is also a few different like decorative plants. I did place down a side table, which is from the Greenhouse Haven kit. It looks like it's meant to be a flower arranging table, but unfortunately it's just like a normal table. If you want to though, you can definitely switch that out to be like the standard normal flower arranging table, and then your Sims can maybe like make some little bouquets in there if they fancy. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on and I've started furnishing the first bedroom, which is grandma's room. So this room is located kind of like at the front portion of the build, and something that I noticed both when I was building and then also when I came in and I was taking the screenshots, the lighting in this room is just, it's really pretty. I mean, you can see just about there where the light was kind of like shining in, kind of like partly onto the floor but then also partly onto the bed. But in that room I decided to use The 4-poster bed that we got from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack also end up placing down like a little, kind of like a little corner cabinet thing. We got it from Cats and Dogs, and it's so like handy and useful whenever you want to clutter up a space and you don't fancy putting a plant there. Also end up placing down another one of them rugs from the Growing Together expansion pack, but I use it in a different spot. And then at the end of the bed, I placed down the chest that is from the Basement Treasures kit. Now, I don't know if you watched it, but a few weeks ago I built an Italian family home on kind of like a little private island. When I built that house, in kind of like the little artist studio upstairs, I placed down that chest, and I mentioned in that video how apparently that chest was due an upgrade. Because basically, the chest itself looks like it's meant to be some sort of storage unit thing, because in the game, if you're familiar, we have loads of different like chests and boxes that you can open up and just pop all your Sims stuff in, because after a while and after through a lot of gameplay, your Sims can just accumulate a lot of just clutter and just stuff. And so them things are really useful when it comes around to if you've got like a legacy family or something, just having them in your Sims house somewhere. But with the Basement Treasures kit, we got this storage box, which is like the most perfect looking kind of like old retro-y kind of chest. You'd normally find it in either like a basement or a loft or something, but it didn't have the ability for your Sims to be able to store something in it. And I mentioned in the Italian family home that I was building, I placed that chest down into the art studio, and I was saying about how I think it's meant to be getting an update, like it's due an update, because a Sim guru, still can't remember who it was, but they basically tweeted a picture of that chest and then like a little open symbol like above it, kind of like indicating that eventually it's going to be getting an update and your Sims can actually put stuff in it. The update happened. I think it must have happened the patch that we got just before the book Nook Kit, but yeah, now your Sims can actually put things in that little storage chest. But I placed it at the end of the bed, also placed down some like extra washing and kind of like little baskets and towels on top of it. And then also in that room, I ended up placing down a little chest of drawers, like vanity area. The one that I've used is from the Cottage Living expansion pack. It is one of my like favourite chest of drawer units to use in the game, but the one thing that I don't like about it is it looks like your Sims should be able to apply their makeup using it, because we have 2 different makeup tables in the game. Both of them are from the Vintage Glamour Stuff pack, and there's like a more modern one and then like a more traditional one, but your Sims can only apply their makeup from that, I believe anyway. I don't think your Sims can apply makeup standing by the mirror. I know I've got a mod that allows me to do that, but I don't think that's actually part of the actual game. I really wish they would update that Cottage Living one, because it's already got a mirror in it, so your Sims have the same interactions and the same kind of animations as what they would have at like the makeup bunny, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I just finished off that room, added in like a plant into the corner, and then added like a tall like standing mirror so grandma could see a whole entire outfit. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs portion of the build, and I started off by doing one of the bathrooms. Now, like I mentioned, there is 2 bathrooms in this house, and like always, I only ever show the furnishing for one bathroom. The second bathroom is downstairs. You know where the little like study nook area is? If you was to walk through like the hallway archway, there's a door on the left hand side which goes into the greenhouse, and then there's a door on the right hand side. The door on the right hand side that goes into the second bathroom. I basically just wanted there to be a bathroom downstairs for the nan of the house, so in the middle of the night she won't have to go all the way upstairs to use the loo. But the downstairs bathroom is very similar to the upstairs bathroom. It's just kind of like a different layout of a few different items, and the downstairs bathroom also ends up having a litter box in it, because there is also a cat that lives in this house. The household consists of grandma and then 3 grandkids. One of them's a teenager, 2 of them are kids, like, you know, children, and then there is also maybe a cat or 2. There is 2 food bowls, so there could potentially be 2 cats, but I was more so picturing maybe just 1 single cat or something. But in the actual bathrooms itself, I ended up placing down the shower and bath combo that we got from the Growing Together expansion pack, and then I ended up placing down in like a toilet, a big sink area, and then just random like classic and kind of like typical bathroom kind of items. But now you can see that I've now moved on and I've started furnishing the bedrooms. So I started off with the bedrooms with furnishing the room that I kind of designed to be for a kid that just absolutely loves animals. The room that I'm talking about, by the way, was the room that I used the high school years bed in, kind of like that classic kind of blue and green bed swatch cover. I did it first, but I was talking about bathrooms and stuff, but that room I decorated to be for a kid that just absolutely loves animals, and I imagine that one day wants to grow up and become a vet. Now looking back on it, I still might add it in before I upload it to the gallery, because currently as I'm sitting and talking to you, I haven't uploaded this build to the gallery. I'll be uploading it later on this evening when this video goes live. But when I was decorating that room, it kind of escaped my mind to place down, you know, Parenthood, you know, the game pack, there's kind of like these little teddies that kids can like play with and like basically play doctor with. I should have probably added one of them in, and thinking about it, I might now add one of them in, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you get kids to play with this little teddy bear when they're a kid, if they age up and become either a doctor or a vet or something where they care for other beings, basically they're going to get like a happy mood with it, because it says something like fulfilled like childhood dream or something. I imagine the kid that sleeps in the other bedroom to, one day want to grow up and become like a vet of some sort. There is loads of different stuffed animals in there. Also place down like a doll's house and one of them get together wardrobes. Place down loads of just like clutter. I merged in some clutter underneath the bed, so it looks like there's like diaries coming out, there's like lunch boxes and just random bits and bobs basically. Also end up placing down the tooth certificate, which if you wonder what it was, I placed it above the kid's bed. I think that's fairly new in the debug menu, because when the Growing Together expansion pack first came out, there was a massive issue with kids when they lose their teeth. And the thing is as well, when that expansion pack came out, I started my own little legacy family. Since then, my kids have now aged up, but now the ability for Sims to be able to lose their teeth when they're a kid is back in the game. So I believe they get some sort of certificate. I'm yet to play with it, because my kids, they're now teenagers, they're not kids anymore. And so I assume that you get that when they like lose a tooth or something, but I place it down on the top of like their bed area. But now you can see that I've moved over and I've started furnishing the next bedroom, which I designed to be for a kid that is basically a massive fangirl. Now this kind of like bedroom interior design was something that I've honestly been meaning to do for such a long time, because I feel like we've got so many different items and furnishings of items in the game that indicate that maybe the sim that sleeps in that bedroom is maybe a little bit of like a fan of the K-pop kind of genre of music. And so when it came around to decorating all the individual bedrooms in this house and kind of like thinking about all the sims that are going to live here in my save file, their personalities, their likes, their likes their likes and their dislikes, I just thought it'd be really fun to just try and do like a bit of a fangirl's bedroom. So in that room I end up placing down a bed, which I think the one that I've used is from the high school years expansion pack, but it looks like it's got some sort of like cartoon character on it that would be perfect for that room. So I started off by placing that down. I then placed down like a little side table next to it, and then above the bed itself I placed down this little like shelving unit, which is from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack, and I basically cluttered it up with loads of different kind of like figurines and statues and like a mug and things that I feel like if you're a fangirl of something, they might be like things that the thing that they're fangirling, like the merchandise has released. And so I placed down some little kind of like statues. I placed down a mug, because I remember when I was younger I was a massive Justin Bieber fan, not gonna lie to you. I was a massive believer, but I remember I had like Justin Bieber mugs and stuff, so I placed that down to the shelving unit. I then also at one point in the room placed down this little postcard board. It's one that we got from the pastel pop kit, and I placed down all these different postcards. I was thinking that they were concert tickets. I just thought that was such a nice idea, and I'm a massive fan of that room. But in the room itself, there ends up being like a little bookcase, ends up being like a little tiny like laptop table area. Also ends up being like a music station on top of like a chest of drawers. Just loads of different like random bits and bobs, and so many different posters that could indicate that this sim, they're really into kind of like K-pop music kind of thing. We've got a lot of different posters from high school years that I imagine that could kind of like indicate that kind of thing. But yeah, that room was a lot of fun to decorate. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on to the last room in this house, which is the teenager's bedroom. So this room is so completely different to the previous two bedrooms previous three bedrooms actually that I just decorated, because the grandma's room was quite like light and just traditionally decorated, and then both the kids' rooms were quite like fun and colourful, and then you come into this room and it is just completely just opposite situation. Like I really wanted to decorate this room to be for a little bit of like a moody, kind of emotional teenager. Now, when I was thinking about the Sims that were going to live in this house, my save file, I was thinking about the storyline of, okay, well, these kids have had to come and move in to live with their grandma because, unfortunately, their parents passed away. Originally, I couldn't think of why the parents passed away, but then when I actually came around to playtest in this house, my Sim caught a light and almost passed away herself, because when I was playtesting the fireplace downstairs, it caught a light. Then I had the idea, well, why not have it so maybe the kids of this household, their parents previously passed away in a house fire, maybe like 6-7 years ago or something, and the teenager was maybe a kid themselves and it really affected them, and then since then they've grown up to be quite a emotional, I don't want to say gloomy person, but I probably imagine them to have the gloomy trait in Cass. And so yeah, I wanted to decorate their bedroom to be a little bit more grungy, kind of gothic, kind of like emotional. And so in here there is a lot of like dark furnishings, there is a lot of posters on the wall. It's a little bit messy, it's not massively messy, but it's not well kept, to put it. There's stuff under the bed and there's like stuff in the corners, and it ends up being like food cartons by the desk that I imagine that maybe they were sitting at their desk and they were gaming with their friends and they've just been like drinking strawberry milk or something and they just left the carton by their desk. It's not exactly the most upkept bedroom, but it's also not the most like mankiest bedroom, if that makes any sense. But I played around with the lighting in this room so much and I tried to make it feel very different from the rest of the house. I ended up placing down this red light over here by the window. I did decide to delete that because when I came round and I was taking the screenshots, I just had a change of heart and decided that I didn't actually like that. So yeah, I just removed that. But I'm just going to go around the room and finish it off, add some final touches to it, also quickly finish the hallway, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys.